Hello everyone and welcome to tonight's episode of Ask Leah. Sorry I'm a few minutes late. I am busy beavering away here at my computer on a presentation, the finishing touches for a presentation I'm doing tomorrow. Hello to those folks at Gippy Water who will be in tomorrow's workshop. It has been a massive week so far. Tomorrow is my third full day of workshops this week. Yesterday I was over in Inverloch delivering an all-day communications workshop to the Jobs and Skills Centre team at TAFE Gippsland. Today I was at Latrobe City delivering training there on personal effectiveness. And tomorrow I'm running a leadership workshop at Gippsland Water. So it's awesome to be out and about delivering training on a whole heap of different topics that are all based around soft skills, all based around the people bit, how we can manage ourselves better and how we can work with other people better as well. Now, we've got a bit of a doozy question tonight on Ask Leah, and I'm going to do my best to answer it with the information that I have. But it's a tricky one because it mixes work and family. And those two things on their own can be tricky, but when you mix work with family, you've got a whole different ballgame. Okay, so let me give you a bit of a picture. There's a family business, a family farming business, and there's a couple of generations of family, a couple of siblings in this business. There's a lot going on. And unfortunately, there is a breakdown in one of the marriages. And this is obviously creating some conflict and tension, and it has some repercussions on the farm. However, there's some tricky family dynamics and, you know, people wanting to have conversations that maybe go into areas that others don't want to go into. And the person who contacted me said, look, they're pressuring me to be part of conversations about the impact that this relationship breakdown's having. And to be honest, I don't want to be part of these conversations because if it impacts me, sure, tell me about that. But I don't want to be drawn into family dramas because I've got my own things going on at the moment. Hi, Cal. Hi, Hannah. So the question that this person had for me was, how do I have this conversation? Because the parents are insisting, you know, we need to meet with you to have a conversation. And, you know, this person's saying, well, how do I do that? Because it's a tricky family and I know it's not going to go well and I'm just focused on managing myself at the moment. That said, this person is in the business, so they can't just step back and say, I don't want to be part of it. So I suppose that's a detailed, convoluted way of me explaining. The situation is when you have to have a conversation that you don't want to have and you think it might go a bit off the rails, how do you manage yourself? How do you set it up with the best chance of happening in a way that sticks to the key message? And how do you sort of get in, get the conversation and get out because that's what you need to do for you? Here's a few tips. Again, I obviously don't have all the information here, so I'm just giving some general advice for how you can manage you in this sort of situation. The first thing I would suggest is to come up with a few ground rules for this conversation before you even go into it. So you are willing to be part of this conversation if it focuses on the impact on the business and the impact that that might have on you. You're willing to have that conversation, but you don't want to get drawn into issues about the relationship or the marriage breakdown because, you know, you don't see that as your business. So you're happy to have this conversation, you're not happy to have that conversation. And I would make that clear. And from the sounds of it, you're communicating via text message at this point because it is a tricky relationship. So I would suggest if they've pressured you to say, okay, you need to come back with us with a time to meet in the next couple of weeks, I would go back first by saying, you know, okay, I'm happy to meet if it's to focus on these things, the impact on the farm and the impact that might have on my work. However, I don't want to have the discussion around the relationship because I don't see that as my business or my concern. I would then, you need to be the person who suggests the time for this meeting, the date and the time. And what I suggest you do here as well, if this sort of thing tends to go off the rails a bit in your family, I would pick a time and give an end time as well. So I can meet from 2 till 2:30 on Tuesday, the whatever next Tuesday is. Okay, so you give that end time, and that end time is important because you say that beforehand. You might say it again on the day, yep, can have this conversation, but I do need to leave at 2:30. And if you get questioned on that, if you need to say you've got an appointment, say you've got an appointment. But this is a really tricky situation, and I know that. So you do need to have that boundary there. So once you get agreement on that, and you need to get agreement on that, if people are playing funny games about, oh, no, we need to tell you everything, you are allowed to push back on that and say, no, look, I am very willing to have this conversation if it focuses on these areas. Okay, and because you're setting that ground rule in advance, this will help you manage it in the moment of the conversation if it starts going off track, because you've already said, you're not just in the middle of the conversation going, no, don't talk about that. You've already laid that ground rules and laid the foundations. The next thing you need to do once you've set that up is focus on managing you. Now, I know you've been to some of my trainings before, so you know what I teach around the importance of controlling your controllables, the importance of you making a choice how you respond. You can't control your family. You can't control your parents or your brothers or your sister or any of those people, but you can control you. You get to choose how you respond here. Don't give away your power to other people, okay? You choose how you respond. So in the lead up, get really clear on that, okay? And as hard as it is when it's family, part of you has to depersonalize a bit because you need to say, this isn't about me. This is a relationship breakdown that is separate to me. Yes, there's a lot of emotions and things in place. However, I'm controlling me. I'm choosing how I respond. I can't control that. And if mum and dad or brother or whoever get angry or upset in the meeting, I can't control that, but I can control my response. And you are going to manage you. So a few tips for how to do that. One of the best that I know that I taught today, I taught it yesterday as well, is around breathing. And, some people think, oh, breathing, it's, pardon the pun, but it's this airy-fairy thing. And, that's not for serious emotional regulation. Rubbish. Never underestimate the power of breath. Okay. There's a couple of forms of breathing that can be really useful for managing yourself at times of high pressure. One is known as tactical breathing. It's where you take a big breath in through your nose and then out through your mouth in a big rush for as long as you can. So it looks a bit like this. One or two of them, when you're in a high stress moment, you might not do it in the meeting, but beforehand, can be really useful. I do that all the time if I feel myself starting to get stressed. I'll do a couple of those tactical breaths and then I'll follow it up with a couple of box breaths, which those of you who have heard me speak about box breaths before, it's breathing in for a count of 4, holding your breath for a count of 4, breathing out for a count of 4 through your mouth, like you're breathing out a straw, holding your breath for 4. And even though I'm going to look like a fool, I'm going to do one now. And all you people watching, I need you to do one with me. Even a couple of those do amazing things for helping you retain control. There's a pressure point in between your thumb and forefinger. That can be a good one if you're getting heated in the moment. Just sit with your hands in your lap and hit that pressure point and do some deep breathing through your nose and out through your mouth. Control my controllables. I can't control them. If they're in victim mode, If they're in victim mode, focusing on all the problems, doing the deny, blame, justify thing, it's not getting angry that they're doing that, but it's being almost like the fly on the wall going, oh, that's what's going on here. That's what they're doing. They're in victim mode, okay? So it's almost taking a bit of an out-of-body experience and going, I see what's happening here. And it's not giving away your power and getting involved in that. The last point, you need to be empathetic but firm. You need to have your key message in advance of this meeting to help keep things on track, okay? Yep, I understand that people are upset and that there's a lot going on here. I get that, but I don't want to be drawn in on details of the relationship. And if it goes again, to get things back on track, it might be, you know, look, I get that there's a lot going on, but can we please keep the focus now on the farm and the impact that this has on me? It's really important that you set this sort of structure up and you have these key messages, because protecting yourself in this situation is hugely important. When you are facing a lot of challenges yourself, you're not on top of your game for emotional regulation when you're struggling, and that makes this extra difficult. Okay, which is why setting these boundaries around the conversation, given that you've suggested to me it is one you have to have, you do have to go along to it, set those boundaries to give yourself the best chance of success. Okay, now, if the whole thing goes crap and it goes pear-shaped, which it might based on past experience, although hopefully it won't, because you're going to handle yourself differently. Remember, success is being able to walk away knowing you did the best you could. That's it. It's not getting the outcome you want. It's knowing you managed yourself the best you could in the moment. So if it keeps going off track and they're not respecting those boundaries that you're setting, you can escalate with notice and you can say something like, you know what, I've explained the conversation that I'm happy to have here, but if you can't respect that boundary, I am going to have to leave. And if they keep going, okay, I'm really sorry, I didn't want it to come to this, but I need for you to respect my boundaries here, so I am going to have to leave now. It's a tricky one. I don't pretend that it's not. I can't guarantee you that any of those tips are going to help or work in the moment, but they'll at least give you a much better chance than just walking in and hoping for the best. Success with so much communication is in the preparation. So I wish you so much luck. Please let me know how it goes. And anyone else watching, if you have a communication or soft skill question, even if it's a real doozy like this one, please do get in touch. For my East Gippsland folk, there are only 2 tickets left to the Attention Please public speaking workshop, so get on to that. And finally, I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone who reached out with amazing support and congratulations after the Gippsland Business Awards on Friday night. It was a real thrill to win the professional business and professional services category, and to be in a room with about 400 other amazing business people and professional people from Gippsland. Gippsland really is an awesome place to do business, and I love being part of it. So thanks everyone, and finally, go Hills. Cheers. And if you didn't know what that means, Hill End, please, for the premiers in 2019.